My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. Today's show, I want to gear it towards men. If you're a woman listening to this, you're definitely invited, but I would like to ask you, if you can, to send this to a man that you know or some man in your life that's important to you. So for today's talk, again, geared towards men, I want to talk about these types of men, typically white men, who are insistent on voting for Donald Trump. And one of the reasons why they want to vote for him, probably the main reason, is because he is somehow put up on a pedestal as being this masculine guy, and he represents a lot of angry white men in this country. So let's talk about this. So maybe you are a little bit older. Maybe you're a man who's a little bit grayer. Maybe you're losing patience a little bit more often with this world. Maybe you're tired that the world blames men for some of the issues in the world. And maybe you're losing some power. Or maybe you're a younger guy and you thought life would be easier. People told you that it would be easier to get a job, easier to find a place to live and have a family. Maybe you're angry, disillusioned, and maybe you're confused about real masculinity. Maybe you haven't seen it. Maybe you believe life is not fair. So let's have a little talk about what masculinity is and what it is not. One of the reasons why a lot of people like Donald Trump, supposedly, is because he says it the way it is. He says what's ever on his mind. Let's have a little talk about that, because there's a difference. Does Donald Trump say it the way it is? No. Typically, he is going to be like everybody else. It's his own perception, and most of what he says is nonsensical, and he's going to throw in a whole bunch of lies that are self-serving. So is he saying it the way it is? No. He's saying what's on his mind without any filter. Now, why should we not look up to this? Why should we not think that this is masculinity? Because there are people in the world that just say whatever's on their mind. And typically, they're very young people, they're children, they're very immature, or they're drunk people. So it's not a sign of masculinity just to blurt out what's ever on your mind. That's number one. Is it a sign of masculinity to look up to a guy that had inherited millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and look up to him like he's a successful, self-made man that has had incredible ambition, that has gone through incredible adversities to come out on the other side as a winner? No, because he is not. He was handed like $500 million in his life. And by the way, he's been bankrupt 6 or 7 times and has destroyed close to 20 businesses. So let's not look up to him as like he's some type of genius, good businessman. So let's wipe that off your list too. Is it a sign of masculinity to look at another human being who's never held accountable for their actions because he has so much money and he can buy people off and have lawyers all over the place? If you're a man and you're listening to this, you're probably not in that position. You're going to be held accountable for your actions. So from one man to another, it's definitely not a sign of masculinity to look up to a man who is not following the same rules that you are. You are going to be held accountable for your actions. Is it masculine to only care about yourself and not about the people around you? Is it masculine to listen to a guy almost every single day whine, cry, complain, blaming other people, having endless grievances? You're a man like I am. Were you able to get away with that? Did your parents teach you not to blame other people, that you have to take responsibility for your actions and to do better? When have you ever heard Donald Trump say he was sorry or he messed up on anything? When have you ever heard him take something that was wrong and make it better? When have you ever heard him not blame somebody else for his deficiencies? You haven't. He is the opposite of masculinity. Continuing. Is it a sign of masculinity to call people childish names over and over and over again? Or is that a sign of immaturity, and that's the type of thing that you left on the playground when you were in about third, fourth grade, but you've moved on? He hasn't. That's not a sign of masculinity. Is it a sign of masculinity to be a sore loser? Now, do you remember when we had to be respectful, like real men? Do you remember when you played in a football game when you were younger and you were beaten up, you had some bruises, but you lost the game, and at the end you still had to line up and shake hands with the other team and say good game? Right, because you were learning how to be a man. You were learning how to be a valuable, productive person in our society. If you would have walked off the field, not shook hands, and said that you didn't lose the game, people would think that you're a loser. But now, supposedly masculine men are supporting a man that can never say that he lost and is willing to destroy our country over it. And even worse, there's a bunch of supposed masculine men willing to help him do that. Do you remember when you didn't have a team around you to hide behind? When maybe you did a wrestling match or that you were in a bodybuilding contest and you lost in front of a whole bunch of people, and you still had to say, good game, or congratulate the winner and walk off. In bodybuilding, if you act like a jerk and a sore loser, that's going to be the last time you ever do well in a bodybuilding show again, because the judges will remember it and they will never put you in first place because of the way you act. Why? Because you have to act like a sportsman. You had to be a man. You had to exude masculinity and decency. Is this what we're seeing in Donald Trump? I fail to see the men out there who believe that they're masculine in some way and they're going to support a guy like Donald Trump. It makes no sense. He is the antithesis of everything that's good about masculinity. Just this morning, I went to church, and it was during the children's sermon. And it was really interesting. The sermon's only like 5-6 minutes long for the kids. And I listened to this one 8-year-old girl speak. And she's more valuable and she's a more stable human being than Donald Trump already. I actually took the sermon outline and I wrote down what she said. She said, running a race is good. Because if they win and you lose, you still get the chance to say good job to them. The parents who are raising that child are doing an amazing job. That person right there, that 8-year-old child, is already a better human being than Donald Trump will ever be. And if you're a man and you're considering voting for Donald Trump because you think he's masculine and manly, and so you're a white male and you need to push white men to somehow thinking that he's going to do it for you as a masculine guy, you're wrong. He's the exact opposite of masculinity. He's everything that's wrong with being a human being. Continuing. Donald Trump can't stop lying. I can give you 1,000 examples, but that's not for today's show. He constantly lies. Do you remember when the 9th commandment meant something? And for those of you who don't know, the 9th commandment is, thou shalt not bear false witness, do not lie. Do you remember that? Do you remember teaching your kids that? Are you a role model for your children by supporting a guy that can't stop lying? Where is your masculinity gone? Where is your backbone gone? Where is your values and virtues? Where has it gone? Do you think your girlfriend or your wife is proud of you for supporting a guy that barely has a brain, that is yelling and screaming at people, lying all the time, trying to do his best to hurt people every time he talks, that during a debate he can't even look at the woman, Kamala Harris, can't even look at her? Let's talk about being emotionally dysregulated. Donald Trump is incredibly emotionally dysregulated. Now, as a man, I know what a lot of men say, right? They'll look at a woman, they go, oh, women are so emotional. They don't know how to deal with logic and reasoning. They're crazy. They're all over the place. They're so emotional. Okay. Can you find anybody more neurotic than Donald Trump? Have you found anybody that's more emotionally dysregulated than Donald Trump? Have you found somebody that has the least amount of temperament to actually be in a position of leadership? Because Donald Trump is more emotional and more neurotic than any woman that you could ever name in your life. I guarantee you that. He is also more emotionally dysregulated than most 2-year-olds. So if you think that Donald Trump is going to be supporting your version of masculinity, you don't know what masculinity is. And we need a little bit of help. Continuing. Donald Trump is not a masculine guy. Of all the people I saw or in this world, and you see him on a daily basis, he's kind of like that kid on the playground, right? Incredibly entitled, comes from a rich family, but can't do anything and whines and cries. He would be the guy, if we can say it is, he's the guy who you just look at him and he's so incredibly punchable. And he's just such a pussy. And yet all these men who think that they're masculine support him. I cannot, you really have to look through your soul to wonder where your masculinity has gone if you're going to support a guy like this. He is a role model though, but he's a role model for entitlement and for weakness and fragility and for simple-mindedness. And you do know this to be true if you're being honest. He's the most least masculine man I think I've ever seen in politics. He is no Ronald Reagan. He is no John F. Kennedy. None of them. So ask yourself this. Does Donald Trump have the values, virtues, and morals that you would want to teach your son or your children? It's a good question. Think about that for a while when you see this. If you are really being honest, I think you would say that the answer is not a chance in hell that this is the kind of person that you would want your child to be and to look up to. Not at all. Ask yourself another question. Would you want your daughter to be involved with or marry a guy like Donald Trump? And let's also add in, before you answer that question, he's a 34-time felon, he's a rapist, and he's a fraudster. Ask yourself this before you put your head on the pillow tonight. What is so wrong with you? Where has your masculinity gone? If you think that this is the guy for you, that he speaks for you, you need to get back to basics and really ask yourself, what is it to be a man? What is it to be masculine? Is it to be all the things I said? Is it to be a liar? Is it to yell and scream at people? Is it to never take responsibility or accountability? Is it to blame everybody else in the world? I don't think so. Go back to basics. Stop leading with your anger. Stop leading with your insecurities. Stop leading with the world didn't give me what I want and now I'm angry. Now I'm going to have some other mouthpiece out in the world who's an angry piece of garbage of a human to talk for you. Go to the basics. Be masculine and be a good man. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.